Life is a Marathon, session 417. Welcome to the Life is a Marathon show. I'm Bruce Van Horn. This is where you'll embrace insight, wisdom, and inspiration to help you restore passion, purpose, and vision for your marathon of life. Welcome back, my friend. I am so glad that we get to spend this time together. And it is my intention that as you listen to this show, that you are going to feel empowered. You are going to feel awakened in a lot of different ways to realize that you are much, much more powerful than you previously thought you were. And so by the time I'm done talking, that's my desire, is for you to feel stronger, for you to feel more confident, more loving, a little bit kinder and softer to yourself. You know, we can be so hard on ourselves. And, you know, there are enough people in the world who are going to say mean and hateful things to us. There are going to be plenty of people who, for a variety of reasons, mostly based on their own scarcity mindset and competitiveness, they are going to want to place obstacles in your path to success. My sincere desire for you is that you not be that person in your own life, that you not speak harsh, unkind things to yourself, that you not place unnecessary obstacles in front of yourself. And we do this. And so part of my mission in life is to awaken and empower you to live intentionally as the fullest expression of who you were created to be. And so I want to start off by sharing that with you and to remind you that you are more powerful than you previously thought you were. So before I jump into this, again, an invitation, the early bird prices to a weekend to break free in the San Bernardino Mountains of California on May 4th, 5th, and 6th. That the early bird tickets go away in just 3 more days. So I'm recording this on March 23rd. The sale ends on the 26th. The tickets are going fast. We have brought in some amazing other speakers other than myself and Bill Courtwright, because we are bringing in specialists to help you shift your perspective, to help you realize that you are powerful, you are stronger, you are braver than you think you are. And this cage that we have built around ourselves, the walls that you've put up to protect yourself from being hurt, are the very same walls that are basically imprisoning you and keeping you from living the fullest life possible. So that's what a weekend to break free is all about. Amazing speakers, Dan Walschmidt and Dave Connolly, are coming in to supplement and enhance what Bill and I are sharing with you. So go to breakfreeworkshops.com and sign up for this life-changing event. I promise you will not regret this decision. So this talk that I want to give you, or this thing that I want to talk to you about, was the conversation that we had in my last Life with My Lunch Coach series. I do this Lunch with My Life Coach every other Wednesday. It's a free webinar that I do from 12 to 1. It's exactly 1 hour or a little bit less. I think this time we went like 56 minutes. So I promise to have you in and out. I do it from 12 noon to 1 o'clock on Wednesdays Eastern time, so it's my lunch hour, but it's just an opportunity for me to mentor you on various topics. And this has been a topic that has been near and dear to myself, to my heart, for so many years, ever since I learned this concept. And I don't remember the exact year, but it was in the 2006, 2007 period of my life where I was going through some major transformations in my own life. My mindset was shifting. My awareness of my own potential was really, really shifting. And somewhere along the line, I read a book by Jack Canfield called The Success Principles. And this one formula was probably my greatest takeaway from that entire book. And it's a big book. And it's a formula called E plus R equals O. And that's really what I want to share with you. And so again, if you were on that Lunch with My Life Coach, then this is going to be a little bit of a repeat. I'm going to share some different things, but also if you weren't on it, then this concept may be new to you. And hopefully it is going to be one of those things that, again, awakens you and empowers you to live the life you were born to live. So let me start off with a series of questions for you. Has anything ever happened to you? Okay. Has anything ever happened to you that upset you or emotionally or physically hurt you? Okay. Has anything happened to you that has upset you or emotionally or physically hurt you? You're probably nodding your head. So go ahead right now. Wherever you are, just nod your head. People, you've got headphones on or whatever. People around you are, going to think that you're strange. Just pretend you're listening to music as you're nodding your head. Yes, I have been hurt. I have been upset. Somebody really got on my nerves. Okay. Have you ever, because of circumstances or events or situations that were seemingly beyond your ability to control, has it caused you to doubt that you would ever really be able to live the life of your dreams? Did you ever doubt that you would be able to reach your full potential? Did you ever look at somebody else and see them living an amazing life? Maybe they've got tons of money, tons of friends, great relationships, but because of some things that have happened in your life, either things that happened directly to you or circumstances in which you live. Maybe you think you were born on the wrong side of town, or you were born with the wrong skin color, or whatever it is. Have you doubted your ability to live to your fullest potential? Okay. Some examples of this. I know a guy who was in a horrible automobile accident, and he was lucky to be alive. And lucky isn't the right word. You either die or you don't, and if you don't, it's because your purpose in life has not yet been fulfilled. I love that quote by Richard Bach that says, here's a little test to see if your mission in life is complete. If you're alive, it's not complete yet. Nevertheless, Hal was driving his car. He was sitting at a red light, and the light turned green. He pulled out into the intersection and got T-boned by a guy who was going 60 miles an hour, didn't even see the red light, and he was very, very drunk. And it broke just about every single bone in Hal's body. He spent months in the hospital, all kinds of reconstructive surgeries, having to learn how to walk again, having to learn how to use his arms and, just be, okay? And while he's doing better now, years later, for a period, he was disabled. Now, there are plenty of people who have situations like this that happen to them, and they have this mindset that said, well, because this drunk driver hit me, now I'm disabled, my bones are broken, I can never be what I wanted to be, and now I'm angry at the world. I'm upset, I'm sad, I'm depressed. My life is never going to be what I thought it was going to be. Can you resonate with that at all, regardless of what the circumstance is? It might not have been a drunk driver. Could have been some other thing. It could have been cancer. It could have been heart disease. It could have been my spouse left me. And now I'm stuck raising kids with very little financial support or very little time to have any life. So much respect to all of you single moms and single dads out there. Okay, it is a full-time job raising kids, but when you have to raise kids all by yourself and work a full-time job, there's not a lot of time to go out and try to find somebody significant to spend the rest of your life with, to share the burdens with. And so many people get this idea that because the person I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with and was contributing a large percentage of our financial well-being, that person left me for another person or died or whatever the circumstances is. Now I'm all alone, raising kids, very little support. And by the way, who in the world is going to want a single mom, a single dad who's got all of these kids? Everyone's going to see my kids as a burden. They're not going to want me because of the baggage that comes with me. How many of you can relate to that? Okay, that's a big one. I see that so often in my work. Or just whatever the circumstances is. You may have made an investment in the stock market or in a business of some type, and that investment turned south, or the economy changed. Okay, so many people lost their retirement funds in the stock market crash, when the NASDAQ died in 2000, when 9/11 happened, when there was the big real estate sell-offs, when there was the big bank frauds. The stock markets plummeted. Or you might be burdened with excess taxes, and because of all of these circumstances in your life, you have this mindset that says, I can never get ahead. I just can't seem to get a break. No matter what happens in my life, whenever I experience some kind of joy, something comes along and takes it away. Is that a mindset that you've ever had? You see, here's the truth. I lived there, so I can preach this sermon all day long. And when somebody else is preaching this sermon, I'm singing in the choir, because that was how I lived the overwhelming majority of my life. And you see, most people on this planet live with this mindset that says, I can never be what I know I was born to be because, and then they fill in the blank. That because is some event that happened in their lives. It might not have been an event with a very specific date attached to it, like 9/11, or like the day somebody left me, or the day somebody passed away. Okay, but the event could also be, I was just born into the wrong family. I was born the wrong skin color. And so that's the event that happened. And because of that event, this is the circumstances of my life. And the circumstances, the way, the mindset that we live our lives, let's call that the outcome. And so let's call the situation or the circumstance, let's call that the event. And so most people live in a formula that says event equals outcome, or the event produces the outcome. I am the way I am because of this thing. Okay? So many of us live in that world. Now, I want you to not take this in a wrong situation, okay? I am not going to say that it was Hal's fault that he pulled out in that intersection and got T-boned by the drunk driver, okay? I am not going to say that it is your fault, that you caused the person who you were in a relationship with, whether it was marriage or just a deep partnership. I'm not going to say that you caused that person to leave you. You didn't cause an economy to fail. You didn't cause banks to enter into fraudulent mortgage situations, and therefore you lost your all of your savings. Okay, so there are indeed many, many events. You certainly didn't necessarily, yeah, let's just leave it at that. You didn't necessarily choose the family that you were born into, although we can have a really interesting conversation about that. You didn't choose your skin color per se. Okay, so I'm not saying that you are the cause of those events. Okay, there are indeed events, there are circumstances, there are situations that happen that are beyond our control. Yet, okay, and that's a big yet, dot, 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 the ellipsis there, okay? Is it really the event? That's my question to you. Is it really the event or the circumstance or the situation that produces the outcome? Do you have a limited ability to express yourself? Do you have limited potential in life because of that event? Or could there be something else at play here? Okay. And so I want to give an example here, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there that it might be something else. Okay. It might not be the event causes the outcome. Okay. Because there are events that happen on a wide scale, and the same event causes the same circumstance for everybody involved. And a situation that comes to mind is a situation that happened, oh my goodness, 8 years ago now. So coming up on 8 years ago, back in April of 2010, there was a massive oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. A British petroleum oil rig sprung a leak. Okay. And just hundreds of thousands, millions more than likely, of gallons, barrels of oil leaked into the Gulf of Mexico. And that oil spill, because of the winds and the currents, all of that oil wound up on the beaches that line the Gulf of Mexico, everywhere from Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama. All of these gorgeous beaches where people came from miles and miles and miles away. People would come to vacation on these beaches that are now covered with oil. So entire economies were shifted. Think about just the thousands of people who had seaside businesses that catered to the tourists who came to play on the beaches, to see the beaches, to fish in the waters. Their economies changed in 2010. And so my buddy Andy Andrews, he's been a guest on my show. He tells this story because he lived there. He still lives there. He lives on the coast of Alabama, right on the beaches there. And so he saw this situation unfold right before his eyes. So people stopped coming to the beaches, and there were people who had restaurants along the beach. And because nobody was coming to the beaches anymore because of all the oil, they weren't able to keep their restaurants open. And so he saw, restaurant after restaurant close, and some of them just boarded up. Some of them tried to sell their businesses. Some of them just said, you know what, I'm done. Okay. And they put big sheets of plywood up over the windows and nailed them up to the window to stop the vandalism. But then they painted the word closed, and then underneath it, forever, and they just moved away. Okay, there were other people who were in the fishing business. They ran fishing charter businesses, and they just gave up. They had no idea how they were ever going to support themselves, because no one's going to be able. First of all, we can't go fishing when there's oil on the water and there's oil on the beaches. Okay. Now, eventually the oil was no longer in the water. It was all on the beaches. So certainly no one was coming to swim. But because of that, people weren't coming to fish anymore. And so people just, again, they closed up shop and they moved away. Okay. There were also many, many people, because they had built their entire lives. They had moved there because they built houses on the beach. And this is what they had dreamed of their entire lives. They had worked so hard their entire lives to live on these beaches. And they built these beautiful houses. And then the oil is there. Now the beaches are ruined. And there were many, many people who took their own lives because they were so distraught. They were devastated. Okay, and devastation is an interesting thing, because when you are devastated, you are thinking that the pain that you are feeling right now and the circumstance that you are dealing with right now is never going to go away. That's devastation. Okay. On the other hand, though, okay, so this was a natural disaster. It affected everybody the same way. There are lots of other natural disaster examples. There are these wildfires in California. There are earthquakes. There are hurricanes. Hurricane Katrina wiped out. I had friends who lived at the Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. They literally lost everything they owned other than the clothes on their back. Their car was parked in their parking lot in their base housing. By the time the water receded, they found his car 2 miles away from where they had parked it, and it was full of seaweed and debris, and it was all busted up. It was not salvageable. So anyway, we go back to this event that happened that impacted hundreds of thousands of people equally. Okay? And it didn't really matter. So you might be thinking, oh, well, a lot of people had financial reserves, and so those people weren't the ones who committed suicide. Wrong. Many of the people who committed suicide were multimillionaires who had worked hard, and they just, their dream in life was to live on these beaches, and now their dream had been shattered. Okay? They could have built a new house. Okay, they could have started another business somewhere else, but they didn't. Yet there were people who decided, you know what? We are family. Our business might be hurting. We might, people might not be coming to our restaurant, but we've got food to eat. We might not be able to employ the same people anymore. We can go get part-time jobs doing other things. There's plenty of business in these towns that aren't tourist related. Okay? And so we can get other jobs. And when things turn around, which they will, by the way, then we'll be able to rebuild. There were people who were in the fishing charter business who said, you know what? No one's coming here to fish anymore. But my goodness, look at all of these reporters coming from all around the world to take a look at this natural disaster and to broadcast about it and to write about it and to take pictures of this natural disaster. Guess what they all want? They all want to get out in the water and take their pictures from the seaside perspective. And so these people who were in the fishing charter business, they went into the natural disaster tourism business. And instead of taking people on fishing charters, they charged the same amount of money to take journalists and photographers out into the Gulf to see the damage that had been done. And guess what? Because they weren't going so far out in the Gulf as they were to go fishing, their expenses for fuel were much less, and so the profits for their tourism charters was much higher than for their fishing charters, and so they thrived. They thrived. And so the other thing that I want to keep in perspective was that Andy has 2 boys, just like I do. And it was, they had a close family friend, or the boys had friends whose dad was one of the ones who committed suicide because he couldn't possibly see how this could ever get better. And now here we are, 8 years later. Guess what? The beaches have been cleaned up. The tourism is right back to where it was pre-2010. Okay? And everybody's doing fine. And so one of Andy's boys said to him, he said, Dad, isn't it so sad that the oil is gone, the people are coming back, and everything's just the way it was before the oil spill happened, but yet my best friend's dad isn't here anymore. Wow, right? Okay, so what I want to share there is maybe it's not the event that happens. Maybe it's not. It's easy to blame the event, okay? It's easy to play the blame game. We all play the blame game. Think about the ways we blame. It's so easy. We learn this so quickly as kids, right? Our kids break something, and we just walk into the room and we see a broken lamp and we say, okay, who did this? Not me. I don't know how it got broken, Dad. My brother did that. I bet my brother did it. Nope. Yeah. Or, you know what? My brother tripped me. It was his fault. I wouldn't have fallen into the lamp if my brother didn't trip me, so it's his fault. We play the blame game so naturally. We're late for work, right? And immediately it doesn't even occur to us to ask if our boss is upset with us for being late for work. We just assume that he or she is going to be mad at us for being late. So we walk in the door, and before anybody even asks us, we've got this built-in excuse for what happened. The traffic made me late. Oh my goodness, there was this big accident on 95 and traffic was backed up for miles. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, but I couldn't help it. It wasn't my fault. Okay? Or somebody cuts us off on the highway and I had to slam on my brakes and oh my gosh, I almost died today. And we're in this frenzy all day long because we almost died. Okay? How many of us come home and we say to our spouse or to our kids, you know what? That boss of mine, he made me so angry today. Can you believe what he did? He said this and this and this. Or we say to each other, that president in the White House, he makes me so mad. Or we have this concept, you know what? I didn't go to college, and therefore nobody's going to hire me. I'm only going to be able to work at entry-level positions. Or I lost everything because of ... Fill in the blank. It's the blame game, okay? We are blaming our outcome. We are blaming what we are feeling. We are blaming our experience of life on the event that happened or the person that we're upset with, that we want to blame for the event. Well, here's the truth. The blame game is you claiming your right to be the victim. Okay? The blame game will always leave you the victim. And the more you play it, that is what you are asserting for yourself. I couldn't help it. Or this circumstance is way beyond my control, and therefore I can't do this. Or I wouldn't have broken the lamp. The lamp would not be broken if my brother hadn't tripped me. Now, I'm not saying that your brother didn't trip you, but here's the deal. If you are not responsible for how you feel, okay? If you are saying, I feel this way because my boss did this, I believe that my life will have this very limited scope of possibility because of this event, if you are not in some way responsible for the outcome, for your experience of life, then you will forever be unable to change it. Okay? When you are the victim, then you are 100% dependent on the circumstance to change. You are 100% dependent on other people to change in order for your outcome, for your circumstance to change if you are the victim. However, if you are responsible for your outcome on whatever level, then you now have the ability to change it. The power comes back to you. Being the victim gives all of your power to the other person or to the event or to the circumstance, and it leaves you powerless. It leaves you disempowered. Claiming responsibility for yourself takes all of the power right back to you. And if you claim responsibility for it, then you now have the power to change your life. So which situation would you prefer? Do you want to be a victim, or do you want to be empowered? Do you want to be disempowered or empowered? Okay? Do you want to be a victim, or do you want to be responsible? Okay? So I want to be very, very clear here that I am not saying you are responsible for the oil spill. I'm not saying that you are responsible for the stock crash. I'm not saying in any way, please hear me, if you have been the victim of any type of physical abuse, I'm not saying that you caused that person to do that. So the question then is, what then am I responsible for? Okay? It lies in the word. What am I responsible for? I am 100% responsible for my response. Okay? Events just happen. Okay? How I choose to interpret the event is my responsibility. Do I take it personally? Do I take it as this thing that now totally limits my potential in life? Okay? I want to share one of the most profound quotes I ever read in my entire life, especially given the circumstances that this person had been through after he had already been through it. So he wrote this on the other side of it. But he wrote this, and I'll share with you who it is in just a second. Between the stimulus, the event, okay, so between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Wow, right? Let me read that to you again. Between the stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. That, my friends, was written by Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. If you have not read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, that needs to come to the number one priority. If you're reading some pulp fiction book right now, set it aside, go to the bookstore or go online and buy a copy of Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl is a Holocaust survivor. He knows of what he speaks. Okay, he spent years being bounced between Dachau and Auschwitz. Okay, he was a very, very successful and prominent psychiatrist. Okay, when he was swept off into the concentration camps with so many people, he watched families die. He watched his friends die. He watched many, many people get sent to the gas chambers. Okay, he saw many, many other people die from despair because they had simply given up. Okay, he lost everything. He lost his practice. He lost his family. His wife did not survive. They went off to separate concentration camps. He never saw her again. He lost everything. But the only thing that he never lost was hope or perspective or his knowing that he could not control the event that was happening to him, but he could always choose how he would respond to it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our formula here and say that the formula that I'm working with is most people live in a E equals O lifestyle. Okay, that's event equals outcome. That's where most people live. But the event does not equal the outcome because different people, the huge amounts of people are exposed to the very same event, yet some people thrive while other people give up in despondency. Okay? So there's got to be something else. So it goes back to that quote. In between the stimulus and the response is a space. And in that space is our power to choose the response. It's not the events in your life that produces your outcome. It is how you respond to that event. Okay? You are more powerful than you think you are. You have just gotten domesticated. You have become habitually the victim. Okay, the blame game gets habituated into us, where it becomes our default mode of thinking. It's somebody else's fault. It's somebody, in fill in the blank. But you are responsible. You have the ability to respond to any event or any situation. And so what I like to do, because some people have a problem with me saying, okay, you're broke, you're lonely, you think your life is never going to turn out well, you are responsible. Okay? People get all defensive when I say you're responsible. But let me intentionally misspell the word. Instead of spelling it responsible, RESPONSIBLE, I like to hyphenate the word. You are 100% response-able. You are powerful. You are 100% capable of choosing a response that moves you forward in life. Okay, that makes you feel powerful, that makes you feel courageous and strong and positive, that makes you see that this current situation will only define me to the extent that I align to it, to the extent that I choose that as my destiny. Okay, but I am response able. I can choose a response that enables me. Okay, so the event is not the problem. The event is never the problem. The problem is always the response that you are choosing. Okay, so even those people who I just described as living in the event equals the outcome formula, they're still choosing a response, but they're choosing the response of victimhood. They're choosing the response of a very limited perspective, and they are not awakened to the true potential of themselves. Okay? So many of these people believe in God, and they say, oh, well, I have amazing faith in God. Yet at the same time, I'm crying myself to sleep because this bad thing happened, okay? This big obstacle has now been placed on my path, and there is no way around it. Well, my friend, is there any obstacle for God? Okay? Is there anything that God could not do? Well, if you are aligned to that power and that belief, then you have to believe that this is not an insurmountable obstacle. Just because right now, in this moment, you can't see the solution doesn't mean the solution doesn't exist. And while I have tremendous respect for Stephen Hawking, who passed away recently. He was this very, very outspoken, hardcore atheist who said God does not exist, that God is a manufacturer or is the creation of man rather than the creator of man. Yet later in his life, he came back to his own scientific basis, and he mellowed on it. And he said, I have come to the realization through science and through math that I cannot prove the non-existence of God. Okay? Just because you can't see the solution doesn't mean the solution doesn't exist. Science cannot solve for the absence of something. Okay? You go into the realm of probability at that point. So the event is never the problem. The problem is always the story that you tell yourself about the problem. It's the quote from Pirates of the Caribbean. I believe it was the first movie or first book. I don't really remember. But Jack Sparrow says, the problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. Get it? It's just such a great quote, okay? It's the story that we tell ourselves, okay? So my encouragement to you is to tell yourself a story that empowers you, that frees you from the bondage of helplessness. You are powerful. Catch yourself thinking it. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with some action steps here, okay? I want you to have some homework. I want you to practice this because you have habituated. When something becomes habit, okay? Nothing, by the way, you were born with no habits, okay? Think about this. You were born with absolutely no habits. You learned them. You practiced them over and over and over again until they became habits. And while we think of many habits as the things we do physically, no. Almost all of your habits are mental habits because you thought it over and over and over again. Our bodies are beautiful, miraculous creations, yet they are machines that learn. They learn, okay, if I did it today, I'm going to build a mechanism so that I can do it easier tomorrow. And then if I do the same thing tomorrow, I'm going to build more mechanisms in place to do it the next time until I don't even have to think about it. So the number one thing that you have got to do is awaken, okay? Realize. Okay, self-awareness is the number one step to making any kind of change in your life. You will not change something if you are unaware that, first of all, that it might need to be changed or that you are even capable of changing it. So self-awareness, catch yourself. Just be aware of what you're feeling. What are you thinking? It shows up in your language, okay? Catch yourself using very limited language, the way you describe yourself. Oh, well, I'll never go to college because of, that whole dating thing. Who's going to want a single mom with kids, right? So I'm not even going to do it. Catch yourself. Is that the way you want to live? Okay, think about the outcome that you want to experience. And if you are not experiencing the expression of life that you want to be experiencing, think about what responses to events are producing that outcome, and then start trying some different responses. Ask yourself, okay, this idea that going to college or not having gone to college makes me unemployable for any high-level job, does that thought serve me well? And can you find examples of other people who have gone on to have very high-level careers who never graduated from college? I can think of many, including Mr. Bill Gates, Mr. Steve Jobs. They're all college dropouts, okay? So many others. I have a very dear friend who actually, and I'm not ever encouraging this, okay? So I have boys in school, right? I have one who's taking a break from college, may or may not ever go back to college. That's up to him, okay? But I have a dear friend who has been extremely successful in the snowboard and skateboard industry, who never graduated from high school, never even went back to get his GED. When he was 16 years old, all he ever wanted to do was be a professional snowboarder and skateboarder. Lived in Columbus, Ohio, ran away from home, moved to Denver, got himself over to Denver, wound up hanging out on the snow slopes and around the skateboarding parks, and practiced a skill until ultimately he found himself competing in the X Games. And after competing in the X Games, he got all of these snowboard and skateboard manufacturers who wanted him to represent, so he got endorsements, and then he went to work in these companies in their marketing departments, okay? And you have a conversation with this guy. He's extremely articulate. He knows business. He knows people. He knows the industry. Never graduated from high school. Okay? And it never occurred to him that he would not be able to achieve what he wanted to achieve in life because he didn't get the education that everybody else said he had to have. He went out and he created his own outcome. Okay? Can I choose a more empowering thought than the one that I'm thinking? That's your homework. In every situation, okay, what am I thinking or feeling? Okay. Do I have the ability to choose a different thought? First of all, does this thought serve me well? Does this mindset of disempowerment, does this serve me well? You get to make that choice. I don't know. Okay. And then you ask yourself this question: can I choose a more empowering thought? Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have the solution today. Okay. The folks on the Gulf Shore, in the moment, they didn't have the solution. Okay. And because some people wanted the solution and couldn't see the solution, they boarded up their businesses and they moved to another town, or some of them took their own lives. But some people said, you know what? This is not a good thing. Okay. I'm not claiming, oh, yay, oil spill. But what they're saying is, you know what? This is an opportunity for doing something different, to thinking about life differently than I thought about life yesterday. Yesterday, no oil on the beach. I was a commercial charter fishing captain. Okay. Today, oil in the Gulf. Nobody wants to go fishing. What do I do? Okay. And in that moment, I might not know what to do right now, but if I have a mindset that says, I believe there is a solution. I believe that that being a charter fishing captain was my destiny. It's why I bought my boat. I love my boat. I love the water. I can look out through history and see there have been oil spills in the past. Eventually, this stuff gets cleaned up. Okay? Time. If you will give yourself time, the solution will appear to yourself. But number one, claim this for yourself. Write this down on a Post-it note. Put it everywhere you possibly can. Put it on your bathroom mirror. Put it on your computer. Put it in your cubicle at work. Put it in your kitchen. Okay? Write this down. I am 100% response-able. Say it again. I am 100% response-able. So my friends, that's the formula. It's not E equals O. Okay? The event does not equal the outcome unless you choose to make the event equal to the outcome. Okay? But the life-changing formula that I discovered in my life was it's E plus R equals O. It is the event, okay? The event happened, right? Okay? I can go and look at a tombstone that has my daughter's name on it, okay? And there is a date of birth and there is a date of death. That event happened. I'm not going to say that, well, the event never happened. The event happened, my friend, okay? But I was feeling despondent. I was feeling deep grief. I was feeling anger. Okay? We aren't built to bury our kids. Okay? It's not supposed to happen. Yet it did. And so I had to, and it took me a while, by the way. So I'm not saying that if you've had some situation, go through the normal, healthy grieving processes. Okay? I'm sure that the people along the Gulf Coast in this story had to grieve the loss of their businesses or the loss of the income. They had to grieve for a while the loss of their beautiful view from their homes. Okay? Our soldiers who get wounded have to grieve the loss of a leg or the loss of an arm. Okay? Grieve that. Okay? But realize that you can choose a different outcome. Don't stay in that grief. Right now, this grief may be healthy for you to let it go, to move through it. Okay? But remember, you produce the outcome by the response to the outcome. So I'm going to close again with that amazing quote from Viktor Frankl. Between the stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. Mr. Viktor Frankl. So there's your message. E plus R equals O. I am 100% response able. I can choose a response that empowers me. I can choose a response that leaves me with dignity and self-respect and confidence. Okay? And in my response, I can move away from a negative situation if that's what empowers me without vilifying another person. Okay? So you don't have to choose a response that makes you forever angry at somebody, because again, all of that anger stays within you, not in the other person. So choose the response. Ask yourself, first of all, what am I feeling? Okay. Does this feeling serve me well? Does this mindset serve me well? Can I choose a response that gives me more power? Okay. And then the quote or the phrase, I am 100% response able. And then choose a response that serves you well and moves you towards the outcome that you want for your life. Again, all of this stuff is what we will be teaching at a weekend to break free. Mr. Bill Courtwright and myself, and other people, David Barreto, the super millennial. We'll have Dan Waldschmidt there. We will have Dave Connolly speaking there. And so there's going to be so much opportunity for you to learn how to break out of your cage, which could be this very mindset that events or circumstances in your life have limited your potential. Okay? There are no limits other than your mind and your mindset. Okay? So I'll be back with another show soon. If this meant something to you, if this was helpful for you, it is my sincere desire that it awakened you to some more possibilities in life, that it empowered you to realize that you can choose something other than what you're feeling right now. And so if you know somebody else who is struggling with this, please share this message with somebody. Okay, whether it's by email, whether it's over social media, or just pick up the phone and say, hey, please go to lifeisamarathon.com and listen to this last episode by Bruce. Okay, I think it will really, really help you. I love you enough to not want you to stay stuck where you are. Okay, so do that. Please share. I do this, of course, because I love you, and life is a marathon. So let's train for it.